The old records of the Immortal Astral Continent have gained a new line. A stranger has crossed the forbidden void and arrived where no outsider should survive. Wang Lin has finally stepped onto this vast land only to awaken inside the Blue Dragon Sect, where greedy cultivators mistake him and Li Muwan for treasures to be refined. Now, with 4 powerful elders closing in, and tens of thousands chanting the Dao Mumble Spell, Wang Lin raises his hand toward the earth fire and prepares to reveal just how terrifying this newcomer truly is. The tea at the pavilion has barely stopped steaming, yet the latest rumor has already sent half the jianghu crowd arguing over their cups. Come closer, old friends, because tonight's tale has everything a wandering cultivator could ask for. A mysterious arrival, greedy fools, ancient sects, and one very unlucky fellow who thought he had discovered a treasure instead of bringing home a calamity. There were legends among mortals that even cultivators might dismiss as superstition. Feng Shui claimed that if a person were buried upon a dragon vein, heaven itself would grant that person a noble fate. And once such a fate was established, its influence would not end with one generation. Descendants would inherit fortune, prosperity, and protection from disaster. Wang Lin had never believed in such things. He was already a cultivator capable of moving mountains, overturning seas, reshaping the earth, and even creating stars. To someone standing at his level, Feng Shui was not an unknowable decree of heaven. If necessary, terrain itself could be altered, veins of power could be redirected, and so-called fortune could be manufactured by one's own hands. Yet what had just occurred across the Immortal Astral Continent was so extraordinary that even Wang Lin could temporarily borrow the language of Feng Shui to understand it. A burial within an ordinary cave might bring future descendants wealth and fewer calamities. Burial within a master cave could allow generations of talented generals stories. Burial upon a dragon vein could grant tremendous fortune. And burial upon the master dragon vein could create a descendant capable of ruling an entire nation. But Wang Lin's avatar had gone far beyond any of those examples. It rested at the very birthplace of the celestial ancestor and ancient ancestor. Although the stone platform surrounding his avatar was not precisely the original platform upon which those 2 supreme ancestors had emerged, it belonged to that same primordial foundation. In other words, Wang Lin had unknowingly placed his avatar upon a foundation carrying the same kind of fate possessed by the celestial and ancient ancestors. This was not cultivation talent, not a spell, and not a treasure. It was something far more intangible, a potential written into the very position his avatar now occupied. Such a fate would not immediately erupt with dazzling power. It would remain silent, almost invisible. But as years passed and that avatar continued to grow, the consequences might become impossible to measure. If the strange phenomenon truly represented what it appeared to represent, then the avatar's eventual achievement could surpass even Wang Lin's present expectations. Wang Lin himself understood only fragments of this possibility. Most of what he had were deductions and speculation, and he refused to place blind faith in them. Throughout his life, he had trusted something far more reliable than destiny, his own persistence, his own decisions, his own willingness to continue when every road seemed closed. That was Wang Lin's true nature. Even when fate appeared prepared to hand him an unimaginable advantage, he did not surrender himself to it. What excited him more was the day this mysterious avatar would finally walk out from its stone shell and unleash its strongest punch. A future obtained through strength was something he could believe in. Meanwhile, across the vast Immortal Astral Continent, the appearance of the third vortex had shaken every level of existence. Cultivation realm no longer mattered. Status no longer mattered. Sect masters, hidden experts, ordinary cultivators, everyone who sensed the phenomenon felt their hearts tremble. Even the beings represented by the 9 suns became solemn when the third vortex appeared. The vortex looked newly born. Its edges twisted violently, filled with countless unstable distortions, as though the heavens had not yet decided whether it should exist. and yet it did not collapse. It remained outside the ancient vortexes belonging to the celestial and ancient ancestors, expanding with frightening speed. That alone was terrifying. The phenomenon was not replacing either ancestral sign, it was standing beside them. To those powerful enough to understand the implications, the question was unavoidable. What kind of existence had emerged that could cause heaven to produce a third sign equal in placement to those two legendary ancestors? Only after a long time did the three vortexes slowly fade from the endless sky. Their enormous forms dissolved until nothing remained. No scar was left in the heavens. No trace remained in the clouds. It was as though the phenomenon had never happened. The continent returned to normal, but the hearts of its inhabitants did not. Fear remained behind like a seed buried in fertile soil. With every moment of silence, that seed grew deeper roots. The vanished vortex became an omen hanging over countless minds, heavy enough to make even powerful cultivators feel as though the air itself had become difficult to breathe. Sometimes the most frightening omen is not the one that continues raging across the sky, but the one that disappears before anyone understands it. The third vortex was gone, yet now every expert on the Immortal Astral Continent had been given something far more troublesome than an enemy, a mystery. Far from those supreme experts and their calculations, somewhere within an ordinary town on the Immortal Astral Continent, a 10-year-old child stood with one hand planted proudly against his waist. In his other hand was nothing more impressive than a wooden stick, yet he waved it with all the confidence of a ruler commanding armies. Nearby, a group of children was being escorted by two cultivators whose brows remained tightly furrowed. They were heading toward a nearby sect, where the children's cultivation talent would be tested. Anyone who possessed sufficient aptitude might be accepted as a disciple and gain the chance to step onto the path of cultivation. Yet that particular child cared about something far grander. Deep within his young heart, one stubborn conviction repeated itself again and again. One day, he would become a king. The ambition was innocent, almost absurd when compared with the terrifying celestial phenomenon that had just shaken the continent. Yet for those familiar with Wang Lin's old companions, that obsession with becoming a king carried a strangely familiar flavor. Elsewhere on the same vast continent, another unusual child had already found a very different road. He wore a Taoist robe obtained from some unknown place and sat inside the residence of a wealthy family, looking almost like an immortal child descended from the heavens. Several adults stood before him, bowing with deep respect.
This old man cultivated for 3,000 years before returning to the body of a child. I must now experience 9 reincarnations before my cultivation can fully recover. Since all of you invited me here from the countryside, I shall remain for a time and establish a Dao connection with your family.
The words were outrageous, yet the atmosphere around the child made them difficult to dismiss. An ancient aura seemed to linger around him. Even mortals could sense it. Sitting before them was clearly the body of a child, but the feeling he projected resembled that of an old monster who had watched thousands of years pass. His eyes were particularly convincing. Their strange spirit seemed capable of seeing through the joys and sorrows of life itself. Around him lingered a faint sense of decay, making the entire room feel grim and heavy. The mortals before him trembled beneath that oppressive impression. Outwardly, the child remained perfectly composed. Inwardly, however, he was delighted beyond measure. He congratulated himself on possessing a talent for deception that apparently required no teacher at all. His invented story had sounded so convincing that even he had almost believed it. He even mused that if reincarnation truly existed and he had genuinely lived before, then his previous incarnation must have been a liar capable of shaking the heavens. For now, he intended to remain with this wealthy household and make full use of the elaborate act he had prepared. After all, he had already spent several months living among corpses in a cemetery merely to build the right atmosphere around himself. He had also paid the cost of traveling from a neighboring country. In his mind, every expense had to be recovered, not merely once, but 100-fold. If the first child carried the unmistakable dream of kingship, this second child's instincts were even easier to recognize. Some people pursued the Tao through enlightenment, others pursued it through battle. And somewhere on the Immortal Astral Continent, deception itself seemed determined to reincarnate. Far beyond these strange scenes, within the endless void, Wang Lin continued his own journey toward the Immortal Astral Continent. Mist surrounded his body from every direction, yet this was no ordinary fog. The mist was the transformed body of the Mosquito King, carrying Wang Lin forward through the darkness. As they advanced, the influence of the Immortal Astral Continent's law seemed to weaken for a time. The pressure Wang Lin felt gradually entered a range he could endure. He had long since lost any sense of direction, but the mosquito beast appeared to remember something buried deep within its instincts. Guided by that vague sensation, it continued flying without hesitation. The Mosquito King was almost joyful during the journey. From time to time, it turned its head toward Wang Lin and released a happy cry. Remaining near Wang Lin seemed to make it extraordinarily comfortable, carrying a sense of familiarity and security similar to staying beside its own parents. But the deeper they entered the void, the more terrifying the pressure became. The laws of the Immortal Astral Continent pressed down with increasing force, and even the Mosquito King's guidance could not shield them from it. Wang Lin's avatar remained within the stone shell, continuously nourishing his original body and giving him a tremendous advantage. Even so, after enduring the pressure for so long, he began to find it difficult. And the greatest problem was not protecting himself. It was ensuring that Li Muwan suffered absolutely no injury. Without Li Muwan, Wang Lin could already have endured the laws surrounding this void. Between the Mosquito King's assistance and the transformation produced by his avatar, his body had gradually adapted. But carrying Li Muwan changed everything. Every portion of force he used to protect her was strength he could not spend protecting himself. That realization made the danger of this place even clearer. Wang Lin possessed advantages that almost no outsider could replicate, yet he was still suffering. It was little wonder that throughout history, those without the proper bloodline had entered this void and never emerged again. Wang Lin silently understood the cruel truth. By carrying Wan Er with him, he was effectively surrendering the protection that a suitable bloodline would otherwise have provided. Yet abandoning her was never one of the choices he considered. His entire journey through this deadly void had been built upon a single priority. Li Muwan had to arrive safely. Time had already lost meaning inside the void. Wang Lin could no longer calculate precisely how long he had wandered there. He knew only that more than 10 years had passed. He thought of Xuanluo. His teacher could not wait forever. Wang Lin feared that Xuanluo might already have returned to the ancient Dao clan. If that were true, then once Wang Lin finally stepped onto the Immortal Astral Continent, there might be no powerful elder waiting to protect him. But rather than becoming discouraged, Wang Lin's eyes grew brighter with determination. He remembered leaving planet Suzaku alone. He remembered venturing into the brilliant void, crossing from the brilliant void into all heaven, then entering the cloud sea, and later traveling alone through the ancient star system. Every stage of Wang Lin's life had eventually forced him to walk without someone clearing the road ahead. The Immortal Astral Continent would simply be another such road. Xuanluo's absence might increase the danger, but dependence had never been the foundation of Wang Lin's cultivation. His next concern was cultivation. Once he entered the Immortal Astral Continent, he needed to become stronger as quickly as possible. There was also one destination he absolutely intended to visit, the Donglin sect. And within that sect was something Wang Lin desired intensely: the Donglin Pool. Merely thinking about it caused his heart to beat faster. He had never forgotten the illusion produced by the fifth flower. He wanted to transform that illusion into reality. He wanted essence, true bodies of his own. If he could achieve that step, his combat strength would undergo a fundamental transformation, giving him the ability to contend directly against arcane tribulent cultivators. The Donglin Pool was therefore not merely an opportunity, it could become a bridge toward the next level of his battle power. As the endless void passed around him, Wang Lin's thoughts drifted toward people from his past. Somewhere on the Immortal Astral Continent, some of his old companions might already have reincarnated. He wondered whether Situnan had finally achieved his cherished dream of becoming a king. He wondered whether Liu Jinbiao, wherever he had been reborn, would somehow continue walking his extraordinary path of deception. Then there was that devil Su Liguo. Wang Lin could only wonder what kind of bizarre fate awaited him on this new continent. Other names surfaced as well: Qing Shui, Red Butterfly, and Li Qianmei. Each belonged to another chapter of his long life, another thread connecting the man crossing this void to the countless worlds he had already left behind. Those memories mattered. Wang Lin had spent countless years walking alone, yet loneliness and solitude were not the same thing. Within this boundless darkness, he still carried every person, battle, regret, promise, and friendship that had shaped him, and beside him, the Mosquito King continued faithfully leading the way. 1 year passed, then 2, then 3. 3 more years vanished while Wang Lin traveled through the void and revisited the distant past in his memories. By now, even the Mosquito King had slowed dramatically. The endless journey had exhausted it. Yet its persistence had finally brought them toward the boundary of the void. The exit ahead might not be the same place where Xuan Luo had once waited. The Mosquito King had chosen this route only according to fragments of instinctive memory. Beyond it might lie the Heavenly Bull continent. It might lead somewhere entirely different. It might even open into one of the 36 states belonging to the ancient country. Wang Lin could not choose where the road ended. At this point, reaching the Immortal Astral Continent itself mattered more than controlling his destination. After more than a decade trapped between worlds, even an uncertain entrance was infinitely better than remaining in the void. Throughout those final 3 years, Wang Lin had directed nearly all of his cultivation toward protecting Li Muwan. Beneath that continuous protection, she remained safe despite the crushing laws surrounding them. Then, on one particular day, something appeared ahead. Light. It was faint, nothing more than a narrow gleam penetrating the darkness. Yet, as Wang Lin stared forward, he realized that the light emerged from a slender rift torn across the void, and through that rift, mountains could be seen. Then came the aura. It flowed through the crack in faint waves, carrying a presence unlike anything in the cave of the void. Wang Lin recognized it immediately. It was the unique aura of the Immortal Astral Continent. His exhausted body trembled. After more than 10 years of darkness, pressure, uncertainty, and relentless protection of Li Muwan, the destination was finally visible. There were still only a few moments between Wang Lin and success, but those few moments might also be the most dangerous. The Mosquito King was equally exhausted. Summoning the last of its strength, it struggled to carry Wang Lin toward the rift. But the years of crossing the void had finally pushed it beyond its limit. Its massive form collapsed. The body of the Mosquito King scattered into mist, unable to maintain its physical shape any longer. Pain touched Wang Lin's heart. He immediately extended his right hand. At his summons, the scattered mist gathered toward him, shrinking until it became an ink-like tattoo imprinted upon his arm. He did not place the Mosquito King inside his storage space. In fact, Wang Lin did not dare open that space at all. The last time he had done so, he had sensed violent instability, as though the storage space itself were on the verge of closing. He could not know whether opening it again would cause the entire storage space to explode, nor did he know whether such a space could continue existing after he crossed completely into the Immortal Astral Continent. These were uncertainties he could investigate only after reaching safety. Inside that unstable storage space were pills and treasures, but also two important living beings, the madman and the woman in silver. Both possessed bloodlines originating from the Immortal Astral Continent. Because of that, simply existing within the void should not threaten them. Only circumstances like Wang Lin's, entering while simultaneously protecting someone who lacked the same advantage, created this extreme burden. With the Mosquito King safely absorbed into the tattoo, Wang Lin tightened his hold around Li Muwan and adjusted his condition. Then he opened his eyes and fixed his gaze upon the distant rift. For a heartbeat, another place and another desperate escape surfaced within his memory. The foreign battleground. Long ago, after becoming a soul devourer, he had also fought desperately to break free from a place that threatened to imprison him. Now history seemed to echo. Wang Lin erupted with his full cultivation and shot toward the rift. His speed reached its limit instantly. Almost all available power was divided between two purposes. One portion drove his body forward. Everything else remained wrapped around Li Muwan, shielding her from the terrifying pressure. There was no reserve left for elaborate spells or defensive techniques. Wang Lin was gambling on the strength of his physical body, using flesh and willpower as the final barrier, while preserving Li Muwan's safety above his own. The rift rushed toward him. 1,000 feet, 500 feet, 300, 100, 10 feet. His body felt as though it had been thrown into a furnace. Terrible pains swept through every part of him. The laws surrounding the boundary seemed intent on tearing him apart before he could cross. But Wang Lin's eyes became brighter than ever. From planet Suzaku to the brilliant void, from all heaven to the cloud sea, from the ancient star system to this endless void, Wang Lin had crossed one impossible boundary after another. Now only 10 feet separated him from an entirely new world, and perhaps the most dangerous chapter of his cultivation life. He surged forward through the pain, carrying Li Muwan with him, his gaze fixed upon the mountains beyond the rift.
Immortal Astral Continent ! I, Wang Lin, am coming.
Far within the eastern continent, domain of the Celestials, lay a remote land buried beneath endless ridges, the Heavenly Bull Continent. Seen from the heavens, mountains swallowed nearly the entire horizon, rising one after another like the petrified waves of an ancient sea. Ancient rumors claimed that this continent had not always been land. In an age so distant that even history had become legend, the Heavenly Bull was said to have been a vicious heavenly beast slain by the celestial ancestor and placed here after its death. Stranger rumors went even further. The 72 continents themselves were supposedly 72 great seals, each suppressing a terrifying extraterrestrial beast beneath the earth. Even the 36 states of the ancient countries carried similar legends, yet too many eras had passed. Truth and myth had long since tangled together until ordinary cultivators could no longer separate them. Perhaps only existences such as the 9 sons and the royal families of the 2 races still knew what had truly happened. For ordinary cultivators, however, such secrets were too distant to matter. If the beasts truly remained sealed beneath their feet, they possessed neither the cultivation nor the perception to sense them. A secret beyond one's realm was often no different from a myth. One legend explained the Heavenly Bull Continent's endless mountain ranges in an even more chilling way. Every mountain was said to have formed from one of the ancient beast's bones. If that tale were true, Then generations of cultivators had built sects, cities, and inheritances upon the skeleton of something that once challenged the heavens. Upon this vast land stood two supreme powers, whose names overshadowed all others. The Guiyi sect and the Great Soul sect both belonged among the 9 sects and 13 factions of the Eastern Continent, true giants whose foundations stretched far beyond what ordinary cultivation families could imagine. Their disciples numbered in the multitudes, yet the Heavenly Bull continent itself was enormous, comparable to dozens of cave worlds. Because of that staggering distance, members of the two sects rarely crossed paths by accident, and open friction between them was less frequent than outsiders might expect. The Great Soul sect was especially mysterious. Its disciples cultivated an enormous variety of arts, but two paths stood above the rest: soul techniques and illusion. Fan Xianmeng herself was a disciple of this sect, and the illusion spells she displayed were merely a glimpse of its terrifying heritage. Rumor spoke of 9 layers to the Great Soul sect's illusion arts. At their ultimate boundary, illusion would cease to be illusion at all. Falsehood could become reality. Thought could take form. What the enemy believed might become what actually existed. That was what made such a cultivation path truly frightening. A common illusion deceived the senses. An illusion approaching reality threatened the very distinction between what was imagined and what was real. Fighting such an opponent meant one could no longer completely trust one's eyes, divine sense, or even judgment. The Guiyi sect followed another road. Its foundation lay in cultivation of the 5 elements, strengthened further by a unique armor-forging inheritance that had earned the sect fame throughout the region. Beneath these 2 colossal powers existed countless smaller sects, scattered across the Heavenly Bull continent. Almost all were attached to either the Great Soul sect or the Guiyi sect, and at fixed intervals they were required to offer tribute to the power protecting them. The 7 Dao sect, founded by the 7-colored celestial sovereign, was one such force, yet its circumstances were unusual. The 7-colored celestial sovereign had taken a Great Soul sect disciple as his Dao partner, gaining the Great Soul sect's protection within the Heavenly Bull continent. His own talent was also extraordinary, giving that mighty sect even more reason to value him. But in recent decades, another name had risen like an unsheathed sword across the Heavenly Bull continent: Yun Yifeng, a core disciple of the Guiyi sect. Yun Yifeng had once entered closed-door cultivation for a long period. When he finally emerged, something about him had changed. He began challenging core disciples of the Great Soul sect one after another, and defeated every one of them. Soon, even ordinary elders of the Great Soul sect could no longer stand against him. His reputation soared. Among the new generation of the Heavenly Bull continent, many gradually placed Yun Yifeng at number 1. Some even ranked him beside the 4 famous heavenly geniuses of the Eastern Continent, and gave the 5 of them a new title: the 5 Peaks. Yet whenever Yun Yifeng heard such comparisons, he merely shook his head. Outsiders assumed this was modesty. They were wrong. He was not lowering himself beneath the 4 heavenly geniuses. Deep inside, he looked down on the comparison itself. 10 years earlier, during a competition between the Guiyi sect and the Great Soul sect, Yun Yifeng had struck only once, and that single attack injured 9 disciples and 3 elders of the Great Soul sect. Such a result explains why his words carried weight. This was not an unknown cultivator exaggerating another man's strength. Yun Yifeng already possessed enough power to crush elites of his own generation and threaten elders. Therefore, when a swordsman of that caliber admitted fear, the meaning was far more terrifying than ordinary praise. When people once again compared him to the 4 heavenly geniuses of the Eastern Continent, Yun Yifeng finally answered, and his words shook the entire Heavenly Bull continent.
My sword can injure many people. I even dare to fight those 4 heavenly geniuses. Perhaps I would not win, but I would not retreat even half a step. However, I once met a cultivator who had practiced for only a little more than 2,000 years in this world. When I stood before him, I did not dare draw my sword. Forget about me. Even those 4 heavenly geniuses are unworthy of being called geniuses before him. In my eyes, among the new generation, no one is his match.
Those words struck the cultivation world like thunder falling into a tranquil lake. One declaration produced 1,000 waves. Shock spread through the heavenly bull continent, followed immediately by a single question. Who was he? What sort of cultivator could make Yun Yifeng refuse even to draw his sword? What kind of presence could reduce the 4 celebrated geniuses of the Eastern continent to names that were supposedly unworthy of the word genius? Even more astonishing was the mysterious cultivator's age in the cultivation world. A little more than 2,000 years. If Yun Yifeng's words were true, then the gap between this unknown figure and the celebrated geniuses was not merely one of reputation. It was enough to shake the very standard by which genius was measured. Many doubted the story, some suspected Yun Yifeng had exaggerated. Yet one detail made the rumor impossible to dismiss. The Great Soul Sect did not question him. Not one meaningful rebuttal came from that enormous sect. Their silence felt almost like acknowledgement, as if members of the Great Soul Sect already knew exactly whom Yun Yifeng was speaking about. That strange silence only made the uproar greater. If the Great Soul Sect knew him, then this mysterious cultivator was not some legend Yun Yifeng had invented. The questions multiplied. Who could make Yun Yifeng fear drawing his sword? Who could make the 4 geniuses seem undeserving of their titles? Who could make an enormous power such as the Great Soul Sect remain silent, rather than deny his existence? Even the Guiyi sect remained quiet after its own core disciple made such a declaration. That silence carried its own meaning. They, too, seemed to know this mysterious person existed. When rival powers both refuse to challenge the same extraordinary claim, silence itself becomes evidence. Neither sect needed to reveal the mysterious cultivator's identity. Their unwillingness to deny Yun Yifeng was enough to deepen the fear surrounding that unknown name. At last, Yun Yifeng offered only one final answer to those who demanded the truth.
He will appear. Once he appears, you will know.
Years passed, yet the mystery refused to die. The story traveled from cultivator to cultivator across the heavenly bull continent. As rumors always did, it grew more exaggerated with every retelling. Still, the central question remained unanswered. Those who truly knew the identity of that cultivator said nothing. Eventually, the storm of discussion weakened. The mystery sank quietly into people's memories, waiting for the day when the nameless cultivator might finally appear before the world. And when a story repeatedly promises that an unknown figure will someday appear, one thing becomes certain: his entrance cannot be ordinary. The longer the world waits, the heavier that arrival becomes. Elsewhere on the heavenly bull continent stood the Blue Dragon Sect, a mid-level sect whose territory alone was slightly less than half the size of the Brilliant Void. To a cultivator born inside a cave world, such territory would have seemed colossal. Though smaller than powers such as the Thunder Celestial Temple or the Cultivation Alliance in comparison, it was still enough to inspire awe. Yet upon the Immortal Astral Continent, a sect of this scale was merely average. Rumor claimed that the Immortal Astral Continent contained 30,000 celestial sects. Whether the number was true, no one could say. But one thing was certain: the differences between sects were enormous. Despite its imposing name, the Blue Dragon Sect possessed no cultivation inheritance connected to dragons. Instead, its disciples specialized in puppets. Before many disciples were even permitted to wander outside, They first had to refine a life puppet capable of assisting them in battle. These puppets possessed their own ranks and varying levels of strength. Some were crafted from special wood or intricate mechanisms, others were far more sinister. Corpses of beasts or cultivators could also be refined into obedient puppets. Puppet arts themselves were not particularly mysterious. Cultivators from many sects understood something about them. What made the Blue Dragon Sect different was a unique method that pushed the concept to an extreme, transforming one's own body into a puppet in pursuit of immortality. Rumor said the first Blue Dragon Sect cultivator to reach the Void Tribulant stage, Grand Elder Du Qing, was himself a man made of wood. Under normal circumstances, he appeared entirely human. Only when he unleashed spells would the truth beneath that appearance become visible, a wooden body concealed behind the form of flesh. The Blue Dragon Sect's path was therefore more than simple puppet control. Its ultimate ambition was to erase the boundary between master and puppet. Rather than merely commanding an artificial body, the cultivator could become one. Such a method promised longevity, but the price was equally profound. The cultivator's own body became part of the technique. Within the Heavenly Bull Continent, however, the Blue Dragon Sect was infamous for something far less mysterious. Its disciples and even its elders were ruthless. When they wanted something, intimidation, robbery, and killing for treasure were all acceptable methods. They survived this way because Grand Elder Du Qing possessed deep ties to the Great Soul Sect. Sheltered beneath that relationship, the Blue Dragon Sect acted with frightening freedom, while few local forces dared challenge it openly. Yet they were not reckless fools. The sect carefully selected its prey. Anyone with a background too dangerous to touch was avoided. Their preferred targets were outsiders, cultivators arriving from other continents who lacked powerful connections within the Heavenly Bull Continent. Throughout the year, Blue Dragon Sect disciples wandered outside gathering information and searching for opportunities. When one of them encountered prey too strong to handle alone, the answer was simple: summon others and attack together. Their cruelty was supported by calculation. This was not a sect that blindly challenged everyone it met. It survived by measuring risk first, and striking only when the expected reward outweighed the danger. That made a disciple capable of judging people accurately, especially valuable. Among the third-generation disciples, Kang Ren was famous precisely for this talent. Cunning, vicious, and highly valued by the sect, he possessed sharp instincts when assessing strangers. With a glance, he could often judge whether someone could safely be provoked, preventing the Blue Dragon Sect from offending enemies it could not afford to make. His appearance made him even more deceptive. Kang Ren was handsome, the sort of man whose face gave little hint of the cruelty beneath it. Yet his reputation was dangerous enough that even certain second-generation disciples preferred not to provoke him. On this particular day, Kang Ren flew through the sky toward the border of the Heavenly Bull Continent. His purpose was simple: to see whether any outsiders had entered the region and might become worthwhile targets. Then the distant sky changed. A spatial rift suddenly tore open, ghostly light flashed from within, and a figure dropped out of the opening before plunging toward the distant mountains. On that figure's back, or perhaps in his grasp, was something unmistakable in shape. Coffin. Everything happened within an instant. The figure fell. The ghostly light vanished. The spatial crack closed behind him without leaving the slightest trace, as though the heavens had never been torn apart at all. Kang Ren froze in shock. He rubbed his eyes and stared at the place where the rift had appeared. In all his years, he had never witnessed anything like it. For a moment, he even wondered whether what he had seen was merely an illusion. But astonishment soon gave way to something much stronger. Greed. His eyes began to shine. His heartbeat accelerated. Without hesitation, Kang Ren turned and rushed toward the mountains where the coffin-bearing stranger had fallen. Inside Kang Ren's mind echoed the first principle laid down when Du Qing founded the Blue Dragon Sect. Where there is something strange, there is a problem. Where there is a problem, there is treasure. Every disciple of the Blue Dragon Sect had memorized that sentence. To Kang Ren, the phenomenon he had just witnessed could hardly have been stranger. A spatial rift. Ghostly light. A mysterious cultivator falling from the void while carrying a coffin. In his eyes, that meant only one thing: opportunity. Yet Kang Ren's reaction revealed exactly why he had survived so long. Greed drove him forward, but greed did not erase caution. Even while pursuing what he believed was treasure, he immediately prepared protective treasures around himself. He wanted the reward, but he had no intention of gambling his life blindly. Kang Ren pushed his speed higher, defensive treasures already protecting him as he crossed the sky. Then a muffled, thunderous sound rolled across the mountains ahead. The falling figure struck a mountain. The impact was horrifying. More than half of the mountain collapsed beneath the collision, stone and dust exploding outward as though some ancient giant had smashed a fist down from the heavens. And amid the shattered rock, Kang Ren finally saw him clearly. A motionless, white-haired young man lying where the mountain had broken. The sight should have warned him away. A body capable of crashing into a mountain with enough force to destroy more than half of it, yet remaining intact, was no ordinary body. Even before knowing the stranger's cultivation, Kang Ren had already received his first warning. Physical durability alone revealed that this white-haired youth was extraordinary. For a man famous for judging danger, this should have been the moment to reconsider. But opportunity has always been most dangerous when it looks helpless. Greed burned brighter in Kang Ren's eyes.
What a powerful body.
Still guarded by his treasures, Kang Ren began approaching carefully, step by calculated step, toward the motionless white-haired stranger and the coffin that had fallen from a torn sky. And for anyone who remembers Yun Yifeng's old words, the timing is impossible to ignore. The Heavenly Bull continent had spent years wondering when that mysterious cultivator would finally appear. Now, from a spatial rift, a white-haired youth had fallen directly onto its soil. Perhaps Kang Ren believed he had discovered treasure. But the true question was whether he had just become the first man unfortunate enough to approach it. Kang Ren did not approach at once. He circled the ruined mountain several times, keeping his distance as his divine sense swept over the broken terrain again and again. Only after watching for a long while did he slowly descend toward the place where Wang Lin lay motionless among the rubble. The instant his gaze settled on Wang Lin, excitement flashed through Kang Ren's eyes. Beneath that excitement was something even harder to conceal: greed.
What a terrifyingly powerful body! Exclamation. Such flesh is almost never seen among people outside the ancient country. There are no stars between his eyebrows, and he carries none of that ancient country aura. He shouldn't be one of their cultivators.
Kang Ren's eyes narrowed as he studied Wang Lin from head to toe. The more he looked, the more violently his heart beat.
For an ordinary cultivator to possess a body like this, what method did he use?
He licked his lips. In his mind, this was no longer a strange corpse discovered by chance. It was fortune itself, a treasure the heavens had dropped directly into his path while he was merely flying through the sky.
His aura has completely vanished, and he's practically half dead. Perfect. I can refine him into a puppet. With a puppet possessing this body, who among the Blue Dragon Sect's second-generation disciples could stop me if the old ancestor takes notice and accepts me as a disciple, then my path will pierce straight through the heavens.
Kang Ren's ambition reveals exactly why Wang Lin's body was so valuable. He was not looking at cultivation level alone. To a puppet cultivator, an overwhelmingly strong physical vessel could become a weapon independent of its former master's techniques. If such a body truly could be refined, Kang Ren's status inside the sect might change overnight. Yet greed had not completely swallowed his caution. Kang Ren stopped several hundred feet away. His spiritual energy remained ready, and he had already prepared an escape route. If the situation turned dangerous, he would flee and report everything to the sect. That choice was calculating rather than cowardly. If Wang Lin was harmless, Kang Ren would claim the treasure himself. If Wang Lin was dangerous, the sect could deal with him, and Kang Ren could still receive merit for discovering him. Either way, Kang Ren intended to profit. His right hand suddenly formed a seal. A thin rift opened across his wrist, then vanished almost immediately. From it appeared an ink-black jade, and the moment it emerged, a violent aura spread through the surrounding air. Without hesitation, Kang Ren hurled the jade toward Wang Lin. It struck Wang Lin directly in the chest. Boom! The black jade exploded. The collapsed mountain trembled violently beneath the impact, and a powerful shockwave swept outward. Kang Ren immediately retreated 1,000 feet, watching through the storm of dust. Then his eyes lit up even brighter.
No reaction! Exclamation. He must truly be dead, not merely unconscious.
A smile spread across Kang Ren's face. This time, he no longer hesitated. His body shot forward and crossed the 1,000-foot distance almost instantly, appearing beside Wang Lin. What Kang Ren did not know was that his test had proved absolutely nothing. The jade's explosion possessed only the power of a Nirvana cleanser cultivator. Such force could not injure Wang Lin. Even tens upon hundreds of attacks at that level would still be far from enough to damage his flesh. This is the cruel gap between cultivation realms and physical refinement. To Kang Ren, that explosion was a deadly test. To Wang Lin's body, it was scarcely worthy of notice. Kang Ren believed silence meant weakness, when in reality he lacked enough power even to force a response. The heaven-avoiding coffin behind Wang Lin remained untouched as well. Even while unconscious, Wang Lin's protection still surrounded it. Forget Kang Ren. Even a cultivator who had endured several arcane tribulants would have great difficulty damaging that coffin. Only after arriving beside Wang Lin did Kang Ren notice the heaven-avoiding coffin clearly. His eyes narrowed. Within it rested a beautiful female cultivator, silent and unmoving. Greed immediately deepened in his gaze. He no longer saw one prize before him, but two.
Haha! Exclamation. I didn't see clearly from afar. There was another cultivator here as well. Good! Exclamation. I'll refine her into a puppet too, and make her serve me. Today truly is a joyous day.
His hands moved rapidly through another seal. A rift appeared on his right wrist, and a huge net burst forth. It expanded through the air before falling over Wang Lin and the heaven-avoiding coffin together. With a sweep of his sleeve, black wind gathered around Kang Ren. Carrying what he believed to be the greatest fortune of his life, he turned into a streak of light and raced away.
I've earned far too much today! Exclamation. Haha! Exclamation. The heavens truly have eyes. They want Kang Ren to rise.
His excitement was immense, but he did not dare remain outside. There was only one thought left in his mind: return to the sect, seal himself inside his cave, and refine Wang Lin into a puppet before anyone else could interfere. And that urgency would become important. A treasure large enough to change one disciple's destiny was also large enough to awaken the greed of everyone around him. Kang Ren had found Wang Lin, but finding a treasure and keeping it were two entirely different matters. The Blue Dragon Sect stood within an enormous mountain range. Perpetually surrounded by poisonous mist, mountains throughout the region had been hollowed into countless stone chambers, each serving as the cultivation cave of a sect disciple. The range stretched so far that its end could scarcely be seen with the naked eye. Nearly 50,000 disciples belonged to the Blue Dragon Sect, yet most were either traveling outside or immersed in closed-door cultivation. Except during the sect's annual gathering, even fellow disciples could go long periods without encountering one another. A streak of light tore across the sky. Kang Ren had returned. As he plunged into the poisonous mist surrounding the sect, The poison parted before him, rather than invading his body. Clearly, he carried some means of protection specifically meant for crossing this deadly barrier. Beyond the poison, a gigantic mountain emerged from the haze. Countless cave entrances dotted its surface like dark eyes. Kang Ren was just about to enter the valley when a thunderous voice erupted from within.
Who dares break into the Valestate, your name exclamation, if you remain silent after 3 breaths, suffer the consequences.
Coldness flashed through Kang Ren's eyes. He stopped outside the valley, already irritated that someone had delayed him at such a critical moment.
Virtual cloud, what is the meaning of this? Oh, so it's junior brother Kang. The fog was too thick, so I couldn't see clearly.
A hunchbacked youth slowly walked out of the valley. His face was unusually handsome, yet the severe curve of his back gave his entire presence an unsettling quality.
Didn't junior brother Kang leave the sect we have you returned so quickly, and what exactly did you catch in that puppet net? You're far too nosy.
Kang Ren snorted and shot past him, disappearing into the valley without another word. Behind him, Virtual Cloud's casual expression vanished. A vicious light surfaced in his eyes as he stared at the direction Kang Ren had gone.
Something is wrong. Something is hidden, and where something is hidden, there may be treasure.
The hunchbacked youth left one puppet behind to guard his post, then immediately flew deeper into the valley. Kang Ren's greatest mistake had already begun to surface. His haste betrayed him. Virtual Cloud had known him since childhood, and abnormal behavior was more revealing than any confession. In a sect built around puppets, secrecy itself could smell like treasure. Kang Ren flew across the valley and headed directly toward one mountain. In a flash, he entered one of its caves and immediately waved his left hand. The stone door slowly descended behind him. A formation activated across its surface, hardening the entrance until ordinary force would have great difficulty breaking through. Yet Kang Ren was still uneasy. He waved again, and 9 puppets of different ages appeared outside the door, standing silently like dead sentries. Inside the cave, 2 more dark wooden figures emerged. Ghostly light flickered within their eyes as Kang Ren passed between them without even looking. He continued toward the deepest chamber. A night pearl embedded there released a faint, gentle glow. Its light could not fully banish the darkness, leaving the cave wrapped in a dim and oppressive atmosphere. At the center of the chamber lay a formation roughly 100 feet wide. Purple mist pulsed from its lines beneath the pearl's weak radiance, giving the entire formation an eerie and unnatural appearance. Kang Ren reached its edge and waved his right hand. Wang Lin fell into the center of the puppet refining formation. Kang Ren rubbed his hands together. His eyes reflected the swirling purple fog as though he were already looking at the future he had imagined.
I have to refine him as quickly as possible. Virtual Cloud is vicious by nature. Once he realizes I brought back a puppet, he'll definitely start scheming.
His right hand swept outward. One portion after another of the precious materials used by the Blue Dragon Sect for puppet refinement flew from his storage and landed around the formation. At the same time, Kang Ren formed a seal with his left hand and pressed his palm against the formation. The chamber rumbled. Purple fog began rotating faster and faster until it formed a vortex around Wang Lin. Then the formation reached deep beneath the mountain and forcibly drew forth a source of earth fire. Heat exploded through the cave. The scorching wave struck Kang Ren and sweat instantly formed across his forehead.
Every time I refine a puppet, I have to use earth fire. This heat is unbearable. Only those true powerhouses who possess fire essence can ignore earth fire like this. They can even use it for cultivation.
For a brief moment, longing replaced greed in his eyes.
When will I become a powerful cultivator like that?
That single thought explains much of Kang Ren's madness. His obsession with the puppet was not merely greed for an object. he saw Wang Lin as a bridge across the gulf between himself and the experts he envied. To him, refining this body meant stealing the power that his own cultivation had failed to reach. Kang Ren increased the rate at which the formation extracted earth fire. More materials flew into the purple vortex, melting and merging beneath his seals. His excitement continued to climb.
I don't care who you were before. Now that you've fallen into my hands, you will become my puppet. I'll refine you! I will definitely refine you.
But while the puppet formation thundered within Kang Ren's cave, another scene was unfolding elsewhere in the Blue Dragon Sect. On another mountain, Virtual Cloud stood respectfully before a white-haired old man. The old man's face was a disturbing purplish black, forming a stark contrast with his snow-white hair. The aura of an early-stage Nirvana Void cultivator quietly radiated from his body.
You dared disturb this old man's closed-door cultivation over such a trivial matter, Evan, if you hold a personal grudge against Kang Ren.
Before he finished, light suddenly flashed through the old man's eyes. His gaze seemed to pierce directly through the mountain and reach Kang Ren's cave. There, he sensed the puppet refining formation rumbling violently. Virtual Cloud immediately dropped to his knees.
Teacher, there is definitely something strange about the puppet he brought back. Kang Ren is almost never this impatient. I've known him since we were children. There has to be a problem. That puppet must be a treasure. Disciple hopes teacher can seize it and bestow it upon me.
The white-haired old man remained silent. His attention was still fixed on the distant mountain. Then his pupils contracted. He stood. Virtual Cloud could barely suppress the joy that appeared on his face.
He is drawing out that much earth fire. There is indeed something unusual. Forget it. Follow me. This old man would like to see exactly what kind of puppet Kang Ren is refining.
With a sweep of his sleeve, the Nirvana Void old man stepped out of his cave. Virtual Cloud followed immediately, his excitement almost impossible to conceal. The balance had now shifted again. Kang Ren believed formations, puppets, and secrecy could protect his prize, but an early-stage Nirvana Void cultivator had already taken interest. Before Wang Lin had even awakened, several layers of greed were converging upon the same cave. Inside that cave, Kang Ren knew nothing of the approaching danger. His robes were soaked with sweat. He could no longer remain seated, and instead paced continuously around the formation, forming seal after seal while throwing the last of his materials into the raging vortex. His eyes burned with anticipation.
I've used every material I have. Once this puppet is successfully refined, haha.
By now, Kang Ren had forgotten everything else. The outside world, Virtual Cloud, caution, danger. None of it mattered. His hands moved faster and faster. Within the purple fog, Wang Lin lay surrounded by roaring earth fire. Flames rolled across his body as though he were being burned alive. But they did not burn him. Instead, the earth fire seemed almost excited. Tongues of flame continuously surged toward Wang Lin and disappeared into his body, one after another, as if the very fire Kang Ren had summoned for refinement had found something it desperately wished to enter. This was the final warning Kang Ren could not understand. The formation was supposed to refine Wang Lin with earth fire, yet the fire could not injure him. Instead, it entered his body willingly. A process meant to enslave Wang Lin had already begun displaying signs that Kang Ren had no control over at all. And perhaps that is the most dangerous moment in the entire scene. Kang Ren believed he was standing over a corpse. Virtual Cloud believed a treasure was waiting to be stolen, and a Nirvana Void cultivator was already approaching. Not one of them understood what was truly lying inside that formation. Then, Wang Lin opened his eyes. At that exact instant, the ink tattoo formed by the Mosquito King on Wang Lin's right arm opened its eyes as well. Within those tiny eyes appeared a terrifying coldness, a gaze so chilling that the raging earth fire itself seemed insignificant beside it. For the first time, Wang Lin opened his eyes upon the Immortal Astral Continent, the vast land that, in years to come, would tremble beneath his name. For the first time he saw this world with his own eyes. For the first time he breathed its aura and felt its laws pressing against his body. His awakening was silent. There was no thunder, no proclamation, no heavenly phenomenon announcing his arrival. Wang Lin first checked the heaven-avoiding coffin behind him. Only after confirming that nothing was wrong did his gaze settle upon the earth fire raging around his body. Mere earth fire wished to burn Wang Lin? It was far from qualified. He possessed the fire essence itself. Not only could these flames do him no harm, they had actually accelerated his awakening. Yet there was something extraordinary hidden within those flames. This earth fire belonged to the Immortal Astral Continent, while Wang Lin's fire essence had been born and perfected inside the cave world. When the two touched, a transformation began, one that had never before appeared upon this continent. This was no ordinary clash of flames. It was a confrontation between two origins, a foreign fire essence carried from another world, and the native firepower of the Immortal Astral Continent itself. The outcome would determine not merely how Wang Lin used fire, but what authority his essence possessed beneath this new heaven. If the Immortal Astral Continent's fire essence prevailed, Wang Lin's essence would be swallowed into this world system. His cultivation would not fall, and his fire essence would remain, but he would no longer stand above every flame. His fire would become part of the continent, governed by its greater order. But if Wang Lin prevailed, the meaning would be entirely different. His fire essence would rise above the native fire of the Immortal Astral Continent itself. In that moment, he would become the true emperor among flames. And that was the frightening part. Wang Lin had only just awakened, yet the first contest awaiting him was already a struggle over supremacy with the very nature of this new world. Wang Lin raised his eyes toward the fog above him. Through it, he sensed a cultivator so weak that the man's cultivation barely deserved his attention. That cultivator paced continuously around the formation, throwing out seals and unfamiliar objects. Each object strengthened the flames and assisted the formation beneath Wang Lin. At the same time, a strange power rose from the formation and tried to penetrate Wang Lin's body, intending to force a series of changes upon him. Wang Lin had been unconscious and knew nothing of what had happened before his awakening. But after surviving countless schemes, battles, and life-and-death trials, he needed only a few clues to reconstruct the situation.
While I was unconscious, this person brought me here to refine me, judging from this formation. It appears connected to puppets. Does he intend to refine me into a puppet?
A trace of coldness flickered through Wang Lin's eyes. Back inside the cave world, who would have dared attempt such a thing? Even mighty figures such as the Sovereign had feared Wang Lin and treated him with dread. Yet now, immediately after entering the Immortal Astral Continent, an insignificant cultivator had unknowingly dragged him into a cave and tried to turn him into a puppet. There was almost something absurd about it. Kang Ren believed he had found two priceless bodies. He had no idea that one of them contained an existence who regarded his entire refinement formation as little more than an inconvenience. Wang Lin did not consider the formation worthy of serious attention. It contained certain mysteries, but now was not the moment to study them. Compared with the formation, the earth fire beneath this mountain interested him far more. He completely ignored Kang Ren, who remained absorbed in the refinement and was still unaware that his supposed puppet material had awakened. Wang Lin's divine sense silently descended through the earth. He wanted to know where this earth fire originated. More importantly, he wanted to see how the fire of the Immortal Astral Continent compared with his own. As his divine sense spread beneath the mountains, a strange light appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. Beneath the surrounding region, stretching across tens of thousands of kilometers, he discovered a vast mass of interwoven fire veins. The entire mountain range rested upon one branch of an earth fire vein. To ordinary cultivators, that branch alone seemed enormous. But compared with the greater network underground, it was merely a thin tributary connected to a main source extending toward an unknown distance. Wang Lin pushed his divine sense farther. What he discovered caused even him to feel surprise. Deeper beneath the earth lay a tremendously complicated network of fire veins, spreading like hidden meridians beneath the continent, and the farther downward his senses traveled, the more terrifying the heat became.
These fire veins resemble an enormous fire formation.
Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense. He had only just awakened and knew almost nothing about his present surroundings. Recklessly forcing his perception deeper into unknown territory would serve no purpose. This restraint showed exactly why Wang Lin had survived for so long. Power had never erased his caution. Even when he possessed enough strength to disregard the man refining him, he refused to assume that the entire Immortal Astral Continent could be treated with the same contempt.
Going deeper is inconvenient for now, but I can draw out more of this fire and use it to nourish my fire essence.
Wang Lin lifted his right hand and gently struck the formation beneath him. That single casual movement changed everything. The entire Blue Dragon Sect trembled. Beneath the mountain range, the earth fire seemed to receive an irresistible summons. Flames from every direction surged wildly through the underground veins and rushed toward Kang Ren's cave. Kang Ren was still circling the formation and placing seals when the terrifying change erupted, his expression twisted in shock. Without hesitation, he retreated and threw layer after layer of protection around himself. The 9 puppets guarding the cave entrance charged forward. The 2 wooden puppets followed, placing themselves between Kang Ren and the sudden torrent of fire. Then the sea of flames descended. Inside the formation, fire condensed into a towering pillar. The surrounding fog vanished beneath its heat, burned away in an instant as the flames roared without restraint. The cave itself could not endure such power. Cracks raced across the stone walls and ceiling, spreading in every direction, as though the entire chamber were about to collapse. The 9 puppets were struck first. The instant the earth fire touched them, all 9 exploded. The 2 wooden puppets fared no better. They collapsed beneath the flames without even possessing the strength to resist. Kang Ren's scalp went numb. Despair flooded his eyes. Before him, the advancing heat resembled the open jaws of death, rushing forward to swallow him whole. But at the final moment, a ghostly ray of light shot out from within the sea of fire and wrapped itself around Kang Ren. The flames swept straight past him. He was unharmed. Wang Lin had spared him. The same man Kang Ren had attempted to refine into a puppet had casually protected his life. Whether this was mercy, indifference, or simply because Wang Lin still had use for him, Kang Ren had no way to know. Having walked along the very edge of death, Kang Ren collapsed onto the ground. He stared at the inferno filling his cave, his body shaking uncontrollably. At last, terror forced a thought into his mind that should have occurred much earlier.
What kind of person did I bring back?
While the earth fire erupted underground, Virtual Cloud and his teacher arrived outside Kang Ren's cave. The instant the white-haired old man's senses touched the disturbance, his expression changed dramatically. He seized his disciple and immediately retreated several thousand feet. A heartbeat later, the entrance to Kang Ren's cave collapsed. A scorching wave of heat burst outward and swept across the mountain. Every pavilion upon the mountain disappeared into a sea of flames. The surrounding mountains trembled violently. giving the terrifying impression that the entire region might erupt. Blue Dragon Sect disciples poured out from their caves one after another and stared downward in fear.
The ancestor is away. Why has the earth fire suddenly changed?
Virtual Cloud's teacher stared grimly toward the burning mountain, his attention settling upon the location of Kang Ren's cave. At that same moment, 3 powerful auras erupted from within the Blue Dragon Sect. 3 figures appeared beside him almost simultaneously. There were 2 men and 1 woman. 1 man and the woman had white hair, while the remaining man appeared middle-aged. Every one of them carried the unmistakable aura of a third-step cultivator. Their cultivation was anything but weak. The middle-aged man had reached the mid-stage of spirit void. The moment he arrived and surveyed the chaos, his voice thundered across the heavens.
Disciples of the Blue Dragon Sect, heed my command! The earth fire undergoes a change once every 10,000 years. Though this change has come early, there is no need to panic. Quickly establish the heavenly water formation.
His words rolled across the sect like thunder. The panic among the disciples was immediately suppressed. Tens of thousands of cultivators sat cross-legged in the sky and began forming seals. Clouds poured from their bodies. Tens of thousands of individual strands of power, gathered together, merged, and became one enormous formation. With a deafening rumble, the heavenly water formation took shape. From afar, it resembled an immense dark cloud, covering tens of thousands of kilometers, so dense that daylight itself seemed swallowed inside it. Hidden within that cloud were the countless Blue Dragon Sect disciples sustaining the formation. The response revealed the Blue Dragon Sect's foundation. A disaster that would annihilate a weaker sect could be answered here by tens of thousands of disciples acting as one formation, with third-step cultivators personally controlling its power. Wang Lin had awakened in a place far beyond the cultivation environment of his former cave world. Apart from Elder Zhao and Elder Li, the other 2 third-step cultivators entered the dark cloud without waiting for further instruction. They activated an unknown spell, and their forms transformed into 2 enormous dragons moving through the clouds. Each dragon stretched nearly 100,000 feet. A moment later, their colossal heads emerged from the darkness and turned toward the burning mountain below. Their mouths opened. Rain descended from the heavens. Torrents of water poured from the mouths of the 2 dragons, crashing against the sea of earth fire below in an attempt to suppress its fury. While water and fire clashed across the mountain, Elder Zhao turned his gloomy gaze toward the white-haired Elder Li.
Elder Li, you arrived first. What happened here?
Elder Zhao's expression remained severe. The timing itself was wrong. The earth fire might indeed change once every 10,000 years, but according to the sect's calculations, the next change should still have been 3,000 years away.
The earth fire changes once every 10,000 years, yet there should still be 3,000 years before the next occurrence. For it to erupt now, there must be another cause.
His gaze shifted from Elder Li and swept across Virtual Cloud. That single look made the hunchback youth's heart tremble so violently that he nearly lost his footing.
Elder Zhao, if this is not the normal transformation of the earth fire, then it may be connected to the 3rd-generation disciple, Kang Ren.
Kang Ren.
Elder Zhao frowned. The name meant so little to him that he could not immediately remember who Kang Ren was. Elder Li looked toward the inferno and raised a hand, pointing directly toward Kang Ren's ruined cave.
He brought back 2 bodies from an unknown place. The earth fire changed while he was refining them into puppets.
The implications immediately changed the atmosphere.
The sect master and old ancestor have gone to the Great Soul Sect. I have already sent a message, Jade. So they should be returning, since these 2 bodies may have caused the earth fire to change.
A sharp killing intent flashed through Elder Zhao's eyes.
Then this old man will personally see what kind of bodies are capable of provoking such a change in the earth fire.
His anger was not without reason. The sudden eruption had caught the Blue Dragon Sect completely unprepared. No disciples had died, but numerous buildings had been destroyed. Great quantities of celestial herbs, both growing and already stored, had been consumed by the disaster. The losses were enormous. From Elder Zhao's perspective, this was no longer a minor mistake committed by an obscure disciple. If the two bodies truly were responsible, then whatever Kang Ren had carried into the sect had already become a threat to the Blue Dragon Sect's foundation. Investigating personally was both punishment and precaution. Elder Zhao's body flickered. Water vapor instantly gathered around him and formed a bubble roughly 30 feet wide. Protected within it, he plunged directly toward the burning mountain and Kang Ren's cave. The cave entrance had already been destroyed, leaving nothing to obstruct him. Elder Zhao moved with astonishing speed and reached the interior almost instantly. Yet, despite his speed, he was not careless. Something about the entire situation felt strange, and his movements carried hidden caution. Even so, Elder Zhao did not truly believe he faced a danger beyond his ability to control. He was a mid-stage spirit void cultivator, a third-step expert of the Blue Dragon Sect, and confidence born from such cultivation was difficult to suppress. That confidence was understandable, but before him waited Wang Lin, a man whose true nature Elder Zhao had not yet begun to comprehend. The distance between what the Blue Dragon Sect believed it had discovered and what had actually awakened beneath its mountain was about to become painfully clear. The instant Elder Zhao entered the cave, he saw a young man dressed in the Dao robes of the Blue Dragon Sect. It was Kang Ren. Kang Ren stood there as though his soul had been shaken loose. His body trembled. His face had lost all composure, and his eyes were filled with extreme fear. He was staring into the deepest part of the cave. There, a massive pillar of fire still burned. Following Kang Ren's terrified gaze, the middle-aged man looked toward the depths of the cave. The instant he saw the towering pillar of earth fire, his pupils contracted sharply. This man was no ordinary elder. He had already condensed an essence and stood at the late stage of spirit void. Within the Blue Dragon Sect, there were only a handful who could stand above him. Even across the vast Heavenly Bull continent, his cultivation was enough to place him among the upper ranks of experts. Yet inside that blazing column, he vaguely discerned a white-haired figure wrapped in flames, carrying a coffin upon his back. From that figure came a faint, concealed aura, and merely sensing it caused the middle-aged man's heart to tremble.
What kind of corpse is this?
His expression darkened. He glanced coldly at Kang Ren, who had already been stunned senseless by fear, then snorted and strode directly toward the sea of fire. Elder Zhao's decision was not pure recklessness. At the late spirit void stage, his judgment had been forged through countless encounters. He could sense that the aura inside the flames did not appear overwhelmingly powerful, and his own cultivation had given him confidence for far too long. The problem was simple. Wang Lin's true strength could not be measured by what leaked from his body. The distance was short. With a single step, Elder Zhao arrived before the flames. The protective bubble surrounding him touched the earth fire, and a chain of popping sounds exploded through the cave. The raging fire was forcibly pushed apart, opening a path before him.
What wild cultivators dare sneak into my Blue Dragon Sect if I don't refine you into a puppet? Then my sect will become a laughingstock across the Heavenly Bull continent.
He took another step. Half his body entered the inferno. Flames surged violently around him, yet the bubble protecting his body showed no sign of breaking. Then Wang Lin opened his eyes. A cold light flashed within them. Elder Zhao's expression changed instantly. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the white-haired man within the flames. No longer concealed, no longer quiet. That pressure was vast enough to shake the heavens, Before it, Elder Zhao's late spirit void cultivation seemed no brighter than a firefly trying to challenge the moon. This was the first brutal reversal of the encounter. Elder Zhao had entered believing he was suppressing an intruder. In a single breath, the hierarchy was overturned. The hunter discovered that he had stepped directly into the presence of something he could not understand. His advancing foot froze in midair.
Scram out of here.
Wang Lin raised his right hand as his cold command swept across the cave. In that instant, the entire cavern seemed to fall into a frozen abyss. The cold spread beyond the cave mouth and into the world outside. Even the falling rain appeared on the verge of freezing, while the vast sea of fire dimmed as though a single word might extinguish it. Elder Zhao suffered the pressure most directly. An icy chill invaded his body, and cracking sounds erupted from the protective bubble around him. The bubble shattered. Elder Zhao's face turned pale, blood burst from his mouth, and terror flooded his eyes. He could no longer control his own body. When Wang Lin's voice struck him, it felt as though 100,000 mountains had descended at once and smashed against his flesh. He was hurled backward, coughing out another mouthful of blood, his body tumbling through the cavern like a kite whose string had been severed. Then he was blasted completely out of the cave. Before the stunned eyes of tens of thousands of Blue Dragon Sect cultivators, Elder Zhao flew through the rain and coughed out a third mouthful of blood. Only after being thrown tens of thousands of feet did he finally stop. His face was deathly pale, and the terror in his eyes could no longer be concealed.
Who are you?
His scream tore through the rain. The entire Blue Dragon Sect fell into shock. Not only the ordinary disciples, but even the two elders who had transformed into dragons stared toward Kang Ren's cave in disbelief. Virtual Cloud's teacher widened his eyes as if he could not accept what he had just witnessed.
Who is inside that cave? Even late-stage spirit void Elder Zhao was instantly driven back and seriously injured.
Voices erupted everywhere. Shock turned to speculation, and speculation threatened to become chaos.
Noisy.
That single cold word came from within Kang Ren's cave, and the world went silent. Even the rain falling from the heavens seemed to stop. Countless droplets hung motionless in the air, suspended between sky and earth, as though some invisible law had forbidden them from falling. The white-haired old man stared at the frozen rain, and fear spread across his face.
Words becoming law, everything frozen. He must be at the arcane void stage or above. Who is this person? Who did Kang Ren bring back? Someone with this level of cultivation cannot possibly be nameless on the heavenly bull continent.
The suspended rain revealed more than raw strength. To these elders, it was evidence of a realm where spoken intent could interfere with the surrounding laws. Their fear was no longer based on guesswork. They now understood that the man inside the cave belonged to a level they normally would not dare provoke. Inside the cave, Kang Ren had already fallen into absolute despair. He had personally watched Elder Zhao, an existence of towering status within the sect, get blasted backward and forced to spit blood merely because of one word from the figure inside the flames. The earth fire roared around Wang Lin, and Kang Ren finally understood the scale of the disaster he had dragged back with him.
This what kind of fortune is this? That was an ancestor.
Within the blazing pillar, Wang Lin calmly closed his eyes again. When the earth fire had erupted, his divine sense had already swept across the surrounding region. Among everyone currently present, there was no one worthy of his attention. But Wang Lin did not allow that fact to make him careless. This was the Immortal Astral Continent. He knew there were countless powerful cultivators in this unfamiliar world. More importantly, he had heard the discussion outside. The sect master and the Blue Dragon Sect's old ancestor were away, but both were already returning. The territory of this continent was unimaginably vast. Even third-step cultivators who could merge with the world could not necessarily cross such distances in a short time. Yet the Immortal Astral Continent was fundamentally different from the cave world. Wang Lin had sensed that difference from the moment he awakened here. The surrounding earth fire continued to gather around him, entering his body strand by strand. He refined it without interruption, using its power to nourish his fire essence. After a moment of thought, Wang Lin extended his right hand. Kang Ren, still bound by Wang Lin's restriction, was immediately dragged through the air and into the flames. Wang Lin's hand closed around his throat. His cold gaze fell upon Kang Ren. The instant their eyes met, Kang Ren's mind thundered as if 100,000 bolts of lightning had exploded within his skull. Every thought of resistance vanished before it could even form. Only fear and despair remained.
Zen Senior, have mercy.
Wang Lin gave no answer. His divine sense surged out through his right hand and directly entered Kang Ren's mind. He searched only for the memories he needed. Once he found them, he casually threw Kang Ren back out of the flames and restrained him once more.
Early stage arcane void sect master, and an early stage void tribulent ancestor, Du King.
Wang Lin frowned. An early-stage arcane void cultivator was not worth much concern to him, but an early-stage void tribulent cultivator was different. That opponent could create genuine trouble. Wang Lin's caution here is crucial. His earlier display looked overwhelmingly dominant, but he understood his own condition better than anyone. Strength was not merely a cultivation realm. It also depended on treasures, prepared methods, available essences, and whether one could fight without hidden restrictions.
It isn't convenient to open my storage space. If I force it, an accident may occur. That means I can't take out my treasures, and I can't use the EC puppet. Under these circumstances, I'll be at a disadvantage against a void tribulent cultivator.
While considering his options, Wang Lin continued absorbing enormous amounts of earth fire. The fire essence within him grew increasingly vigorous with every breath.
Forget it. I should leave this place first and investigate the problem with my storage space. My other essences also seem to have changed after arriving here. I need time to familiarize myself with them.
A decisive light flashed through his eyes. He had only just arrived on the Immortal Astral Continent. He understood too little about its powers, its sects, and its hidden experts. With Wang Lin's personality, blindly displaying arrogance in an unfamiliar world held no appeal. This choice reveals the difference between confidence and foolishness. Wang Lin had already crushed a late spirit void cultivator with ease, yet he refused to assume the entire Blue Dragon Sect was equally harmless. Survival on the path of cultivation often belongs not to the loudest expert, but to the one who knows exactly when a battle is unnecessary. Having made his decision, Wang Lin formed a seal and swept his hand outward. The earth shook violently. Even more earth fire erupted from below. Flames flooded the cave and surged toward its entrance, with some tongues of fire spilling outside into the rain. Outside, Elder Zhao immediately noticed the change. A cultivator who had survived long enough to reach his realm could never truly be stupid. Despite his injuries, he instantly understood Wang Lin's intention.
He's going to escape.
His face turned grim. The memory of being crushed by Wang Lin's single command still filled him with fear. Yet there was something he feared even more, the wrath of the Blue Dragon Sect's old ancestor. Elder Zhao had personally witnessed what that ancestor could do when angered. Refining a subordinate into a wooden person was no empty threat. That fear trapped Elder Zhao between two disasters: enter the cave, and he might die beneath Wang Lin's hand. Allow Wang Lin to leave, and Du Qing's punishment could be equally terrifying. From his perspective, retreat was no longer a safe option. He gritted his teeth and forced down the injuries inside his body.
We cannot let him escape before the old ancestor returns exclamation. If he gets away, none of us will be able to endure the old ancestor's fury. Li Xianxia exclamation, Sun Mengde exclamation, Han Xin exclamation, this man intends to flee. Stop him exclamation, you all know what will happen if the old ancestor becomes angry. All Blue Dragon Sect disciples, dispel the heavenly water formation and activate the Dao Mumble.
With that command, Elder Zhao ignored his battered body and charged forward once more. Behind him, the white-haired elder's expression twisted. After only a moment of hesitation, he clenched his teeth and followed. High among the clouds, the two enormous dragons twisted violently before transforming back into a man and a woman. They too remembered the terrifying temperament of the old ancestor, neither dared hold anything back. Their full cultivation erupted as they rushed toward the cave below. 4 great elders of the Blue Dragon Sect. 4 third-step cultivators. All 4 moved together for one purpose, to prevent Wang Lin from leaving. The confrontation had now changed completely. A moment earlier, the Blue Dragon Sect wanted to punish an intruder. Now its strongest present elders knew they might not be able to defeat him at all. Their objective had narrowed to a single desperate task: delay him until Duqing returned. At Elder Zhao's order, tens of thousands of Blue Dragon Sect disciples simultaneously abandoned the heavenly water formation. Their hands formed seals. Then tens of thousands of mouths began to mutter in unison. A vast, low chant rolled across the sky like the murmur of an ancient world. The Dao Mumble Spell originated from the Great Soul Sect. Because the Blue Dragon Sect maintained an unusually close relationship with that great sect, the Great Soul Sect had bestowed this technique upon them as a sect protection spell. And if one listened carefully to the voices of those tens of thousands of disciples, one would discover that they repeated only 2 words. Dao. Soul.
Dao Soul Soul Dao Dao Soul.
The chanting enveloped the land, penetrated the mountain, and poured directly into Kangren's cave. It reached Wang Lin's ears. His heart suddenly trembled. An invisible force entered his body. It sought to melt his Dao intent and tear his soul apart. The danger of the Dao Mumble Spell did not lie in ordinary destructive power. It attacked something far more fundamental: the cultivator's Dao intent and soul. When tens of thousands chanted together, their collective force became capable of disturbing even a powerful third-step cultivator. Irritation immediately appeared in Wang Lin's heart. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He let out a cold snort and stepped forward. With that single step, Wang Lin activated the heartbeat thunder he had learned within the ancient tomb. Thump. A heartbeat sounded from within his body. Thump. The heartbeat spread beyond him, growing heavier, louder, and more violent with every pulse. One force was created by tens of thousands of voices chanting Dao and Soul. The other came from the thunderous rhythm of a single man's heart. They collided head-on. And this is where Wang Lin's terrifying combat instinct becomes clear. He did not waste time trying to endure the Dao Mumble Spell. He answered a collective soul-disturbing technique with another invisible force, heartbeat thunder, turning the battlefield into a clash of laws, rhythm, Dao, and will, rather than mere spiritual power. At the same time, the 4 great elders rushed into the cave from different directions, intending to seal every path and prevent Wang Lin from escaping. Wang Lin raised his right hand. His palm reached toward the earth beneath the cave. A ferocious expression appeared on his face. The Blue Dragon Sect believed it was closing a net around Wang Lin. But with 4 third-step elders charging in, tens of thousands of disciples chanting outside, and the earth fire itself lying beneath his feet, Wang Lin was about to turn the very foundation of their mountain into a weapon.
Extract the soul of the earth fire.